Hi, good evening, and welcome to tonight's Parent University workshop. My name is Rebecca Fast, and I'm a teacher here on the Parent University team. It is my honor to welcome our guests here tonight. Joining us are our community partners from the well-known organization MADD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. We have with us tonight Melissa Estelle, and with her a volunteer who not only works and volunteers with MADD, but a woman who also has her own organization. She's the founder of Street Racing Kills, Miss Lily Trujillo. And together they're going to share some facts with us tonight. They're going to share some tips, how to talk with our teens, how to talk with our families about some really important issues. So we're so happy to have them here tonight. If throughout the workshop you have some questions, we have a Google form right underneath the YouTube link here tonight. So right underneath the YouTube, there should be a form where you can submit your questions. If you have comments or questions, we'd love to hear them. And so please feel free to participate with us tonight. Also underneath the link are the materials. So they have some handbooks out there for you. So if we have one for middle school and also one for high school. So right underneath the link here tonight are some resources for our families. So again, thank you to all of our viewers out there. Thank you to everybody who's watching and tuning in. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Mrs. Estelle. Mrs. Estelle, welcome and thank you for being here. And it's all yours. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us, Rebecca. I appreciate it. Of course, near and dear to me, a proud LBUSD alum from Poly High School. So happy to be here and share this information with you all. Again, my name is Melissa Estelle. I'm a senior program specialist with MADD Southern California. And I've been with MADD almost 6 years. It'll be 6 years in August. And unfortunately, I've seen firsthand, parents, families, and entire communities devastated by the tragic consequences of not just underage drinking, but of course, drunk driving as well. And it's important because MADD was instrumental in helping pass the 21 Minimum Drinking Age Act back in 1984. So just 4 years after our organization was founded, and we continue to defend it to this day because we know just how dangerous underage alcohol use can be to our kids' health and safety. And we know to prevent these terrible tragedies, you guys are an important part of that. Parents are essential in educating their kids about the consequences. And you have a significant influence on their choice to drink. So throughout today, again, we'll share some facts, some statistics, and the resources you can take advantage of to have those continuing conversations with your children. So just a little bit more about MADD. Our vision for the future is no more victims, because drunk driving is 100% preventable. So our mission is to end drunk driving, help fight drug driving, support victims of this violent crime, and prevent underage drinking. So we do a lot of things throughout the community. And again, we were founded in 1980. We are Mothers Against Drunk Driving because we want to show that we're against the choice to drive under the influence. We're not against individuals. And contrary to popular belief, we're not against those who choose to drink alcohol. If you're 21, we're just asking you to plan ahead, designate that sober driver, and make sure you get home safe. And of course, your guests if you're hosting as well. So what do we do? First and foremost, we serve victims, as I mentioned, of drunk and drug driving crashes. No family is ever prepared for a loss like this. And often it's their first time dealing with the criminal justice system. So we have advocates that will support them if there's a court case, be their voice and their liaison between all of those parties, and then connect them to essential resources like restitution, support group, therapy, and anything they may need in this new journey that they're on. We also lobby to support stronger drunk driving laws. So many of the laws you know today, right? 21 Minimum Drinking Age Act, our legal limit for blood alcohol content, 0.08. Those are things that MADD had a hand in putting into place. And today we continue that fight with things like advanced vehicle technologies, ignition interlock devices, anything we can do to take that choice away from the driver and keep our roadways that much safer. And of course, my favorite part of my job is protecting our youth through workshops like this for parents, of course, with the kids and just the community in general to help them learn these consequences and what they can do to be positive influences throughout their communities. And our natural partners in this fight are law enforcement. So we do honor them for their work in keeping our roadways safe, as well as partner with them in our educational efforts. So if you or someone you know has been impacted by drunk or drug driving, unfortunately, we're seeing it in the news quite frequently. Even recently, several crashes involving teens that don't necessarily involve alcohol, but it's just devastating to see. So we're here for you. Again, all services are free of charge. You can call someone 24 hours a day at 877 MADD HELP. And they will get you contacted to a local office like ours here in Southern California. So drunk driving today, what does that look like? You would think with Uber, Lyft, right, everything that we have at our fingertips that drunk driving wouldn't be as big of an issue. But unfortunately, the COVID-19 pandemic sent us in the other direction. So drunk driving deaths actually increased by 14% from 2019 to 2020, while vehicle miles traveled dropped by 11%, right? We all were staying home. There weren't a lot of people out on the road, but unfortunately, many drivers took that as an opportunity to make those reckless choices. So that amounted to over 11,000 lives lost due to alcohol-involved collisions in 2020. And this is the highest it's been since 2008. We've made a lot of progress, and unfortunately, that pandemic did set us back. And over 1,000 of those fatalities were right here in California. So we focus on underage drinking prevention because we know if we can help our kids create healthy habits now, then they'll have those healthy habits as they become adults. And that's especially true for something as driving, right? That's a privilege that they can have. So we want to make sure they're taking that seriously. So we do workshops like this, Power of Parents, and we also do Power of Youth, which again, free of charge, available to any community organization or school. We've done assemblies, we've done health classrooms, even PE classrooms throughout the pandemic, right? Those virtual classes were a little bit difficult, but we made it happen. So we appreciate our educational partners like Long Beach to help us get this word out. So today we'll be covering, of course, the problem and consequences of not just underage drinking, but marijuana use, and then the role of your teen's friends, their peers, other adults in their life, and then, of course, what you guys can do as parents and caregivers to make a difference and keep your kiddos safe. And of course, we'd love to thank Nationwide. We're over 10 years in our partnership with Nationwide to provide this programming throughout the nation. So we appreciate them for supporting us. So underage drinking. Alcohol is kind of seen as just part of our society now. We understand that. So parents often rank drugs as more dangerous than alcohol. But it is a drug, and it's the most commonly used drug among youth. And it kills more than tobacco, marijuana, or any other illicit drug combined, with over 4,000 youth dying every year due to alcohol use. So, and we'll get into that breakdown shortly. But this is especially important because teens often start with alcohol, and then it can be abused in combination with other drugs. So while we're focusing on alcohol today and a little bit about marijuana, everything you learn here today can be utilized to have pretty much any difficult conversations, especially about those substances. And it's really important to start those conversations now because we know that research shows kids are starting to weigh those decisions as early as age 8. So if you're joining us today and you have a high school kid, middle school kid, even if you have some elementary kiddos, definitely consider having those conversations or bringing them in to have that conversation with your older kiddos as well. And it's essential because, right, the human brain is not done developing until the mid-20s. So these substances that we know are highly addictive, alcohol, tobacco, and marijuana, that's why 21 is that minimum age for consumption. So we're just asking our kids to give their brains a chance to develop, right? We only get one in our lifetime, so we want to make sure it's healthy and strong and capable of doing everything it's made to do. And we often say taking away the keys does not take away the risks. We know there are some adults that permit alcohol inside the home, right, if they're not going anywhere. But only 1 in 3 of these underage drinking related deaths are traffic related. So 32%, this red portion that you see here, is traffic deaths. And I like to point out that we always say crash or collision. These are never accidents, because accidents you can't really stop from happening. But again, drunk driving is 100% preventable. Unfortunately, we also see 30% homicide, right? If you talk to law enforcement, most crimes unfortunately start with drugs and alcohol. And with our kiddos, their brains not being fully developed, they're going to make that impulsive decision, right? What feels good in the moment. And we know, right, they're not thinking about those long-term consequences. So similarly, 14% suicide. I know recently they declared a mental health crisis for our kids. So healthy coping mechanisms are so important, not just for us to talk about, but to model at home, right? If we're coping with alcohol or other drugs, then that's the lesson that we're teaching our kids. So again, not judging anybody if they do drink, but we want to make sure it's not the coping mechanism that we're teaching our kiddos. So when I talk to the kids, I really try to get them to have that conversation about what are the healthy things they're doing, because suicide is a permanent choice for a temporary situation, right, that they're in. We also see other poisonings, alcohol poisonings, of course, drownings, fires, and falls are some of these smaller percentages that you see here. So as you all well know, as adults, right, adults don't make the best decisions, can easily get harmed when alcohol is involved. That's especially true for our kiddos. So what is the role of their friends and peers? Obviously, they're very influenced by their peers. And parents tend to worry about, maybe other kids giving their kid alcohol or being a part of a group that is applying that social pressure to drink. And we want parents to worry less about that, about your kid associating with maybe a bad friend, and more about the misperceptions that everyone is drinking. Because this is commonly what kids think. They estimate 50 to 75% of teens are drinking, when that's actually not the case. The majority of teens do not drink. So these misperceptions can lead to the pressure to fit in, the belief that it's normal, and of course, more teen drinking. So if we can work on those misperceptions, then we can help them understand that when they make the choice to not drink underage, they're actually in the majority. So one of the ways we do that is through our teen influencer group. So these are youth, they're peer-to-peer educators that we train, and they give us the youth perspective. Right, because things are changing ever so quickly. I'm sure as parents, we know it's hard to keep up with what's the latest app, what's the latest trend, and they give us that inside scoop. So, and they can present this information in a way that's more impactful than us as adults. So if you're looking for your kiddo to get more involved, they can earn community service hours, and of course, really help MADD to extend this education to kids who might not normally get it. And so throughout the year, there's a lot of activities for them to get involved with. And over the summer, we have our Teen Influencer Institute. They can receive training, public speaking, social media, learn about alcohol and traffic safety. And then in the fall, these kids put on our Teen Influencer Summit. So that is a great event. Welcome for parents, for youth, to get some of this education and find out more resources available to them. So what about other adults? So think about who are the other adults in your child's family. I'm sure they have aunts, uncles, right? Grandparents. They have older cousins, maybe that are closer in age, but over the age of 21. Those are the people that you really want to consider when thinking about the role of other adults. And it's because of those misperceptions. So there are adults who believe, you can take the mystery away by letting your kids drink at home, or you can teach them to drink responsibly. It's okay because it's a special occasion, right? We are always looking for ways to celebrate. Or if they drank underage or used marijuana and they turned out fine, so they believe it's okay. And we know from decades of research that permitting your children to drink inside the home, even in small amounts, they're going to be drinking outside of the home and in greater amounts. And of course, that's where we know those problems can really come into play. So you simply cannot teach your kids how to drink responsibly. An important thing to keep in mind, there's no other drug that adults would consider giving their kids in small amounts, right? We wouldn't think about, hey, let me give them a little bit of cocaine or a little bit of meth, right? That's not something that we would do. So why do we do that with alcohol when it's just as dangerous to the developing brain? So when I say you guys have an influence, the power to make a difference, this is based on research. 3 in 4 teens say their parents are the leading influence on their choice to drink. So I know with the teens, I have a teen at home. It may not seem like they're listening, but having that consistent conversation, even if you feel like you're repeating themselves, when they're faced with that situation, we know that they'll think back to, oh yeah, that's what my mom was talking about. All right. So again, we do have parent handbooks available in English and Spanish. And if you have a high school or a middle school student, you can also find more information at madd.org/power of parents. For example, we have a teen agreement that you can download and use with your teen, especially if they're of driving age. We want to make sure they're being especially careful with that responsibility. And this handbook was developed in partnership with Dr. Robert Teresi from the University of Pennsylvania. He adapted his research to empower parents to have effective conversations with their middle and high schoolers about teen drinking. His original handbook was actually shown to decrease underage drinking by up to 30% among college freshmen whose parents read and used the handbook. So it's definitely effective, it works, and we'll take a little look inside. So it covers a variety of topics, again, for middle schoolers and high schoolers. And we're not here to judge and tell you how to parent. This is just one individual's, it's based on research, right? This is not our perspective as parents, but just to give you the information you need to make the best choices for your family. So one of the sections is about what your middle and high schooler is going through. I know we can all think back on our time, right, as teens, but again, in this ever-changing world, what they're dealing with. So, right, we know they're in that fine balance between wanting freedom and independence, but not quite being mature enough to handle that. And of course, they're thinking in the here and now. They're not really thinking about long-term consequences. And again, strongly influenced by their peers. So making a good choice can sometimes be pretty difficult. So the handbook offers that insight on how to help your teen become a better problem solver, how to think about the long-term consequences, and given all the changes that they're going through, what's the best choice? So research has also been done on the different types of parenting styles. So you'll find more info in the handbook about this. And it shows how they relate to the decisions your kids can make about alcohol. So again, not trying to paralyze you into thinking, there's a particular style that's good or bad, but just some evidence to show you and help you choose what's best for your family. So we note that the authoritarian, so hope my mom's not watching, this was her, right? The my way or the highway kind of attribute, but we have seen that unfortunately teens of authoritarian parents tend to consume the most dangerously high levels of alcohol. And then we also note that the positive or authoritative parent, so, they use their authority to strengthen and protect, but not control their teen. When these teens do drink, they often consume significantly less levels of alcohol. And then, of course, essential, right? Talking about alcohol, it can be a difficult conversation. So we offer some techniques, how to communicate your values as a parent, and setting those appropriate rules and consequences. So for example, with my niece, she's 15, we came up with rules and consequences together. That way it's a conversation. It doesn't feel like a lecture to them, and they can't come back and say, hey, this isn't fair, because they were a part of creating those rules and those consequences. And then, of course, the tricky question about, if they drink underage as a teen, how you can handle that. So this is a quick clip. Last year, we did a Q&A with some parents and Dr. Allie Powell-Hicks, who's one of our advisory board members, and she's also a mental health and relationship expert. So this is a great clip that talks about some signs to look out for in your kiddo, for if you're suspecting that they may be abusing a substance.
Type of change that might be associated with secrecy. You're looking for maybe increase in depression, because we all respond a little differently to substances and alcohol. So you may have that kid that becomes more gregarious when they're using something, or you may have that kid that becomes really quiet and sullen and kind of sad. And so you're looking for that. And then you're also looking for patterns in their friendships. Are their friends using? Are their friends drinking? Because not that kids always do what their friends do, or that teenagers are always doing what their friends do, but it can be difficult to not do something when a lot of people around you are. So you're looking for any change in your kid. Are they becoming more gregarious? Are they becoming more irritable, sad? Are they hiding? Are they sneaking? Are their behaviors changing in general? Yeah.
So I really like what she said about, what are their friends doing? Not necessarily because they always do what their friends do, but it can be really hard to make a choice when others are making a different choice. So additionally, in the handbook, it goes over, tips for dealing with peer pressure, helping them find alternatives to drink. So a lot of the reasons kids tell me about drinking, of course, fun, which I think is indicative of everything in our society that we see on TV, right? Alcohol equals fun. But most, I think, that they're saying these days is stress and anxiety. So again, going back to what are these healthy coping mechanisms that they have or that we're teaching them at home, and really focusing in on those. And then, of course, guiding them to choose their friends wisely. Right? Peer pressure is never good, but helping them think through, well, if your friend is asking you to do this that isn't good, isn't safe, then maybe we need to question that friendship. And then, of course, getting help if you think your teen may have a drinking problem. And most important for us here at MADD, steering clear of those driving dangers. So we talk a lot about don't drink and drive, but make sure we also tell them, don't get in the car with somebody who's been drinking, and not just another kid, right? They shouldn't be riding with another kid in the first place, but even if it's an adult. I've had, kids admit to me that it was an aunt, it wasn't a parent. So letting them know that it's their choice and they have the power to say no to that ride because they know it's not safe. And of course, talking about marijuana and combining these two. So we often get asked about marijuana, of course, since it's recently legalized here in California. And I will note that the perception of harm has extremely decreased. So kids do think marijuana is safer than alcohol, although I believe alcohol is more accessible, and that's why we still see it used today. But the perception of harm again. So helping them understand the differences in marijuana today versus 30 years ago, the dangers on the developing brain. It's still, still addictive, just like alcohol. And next to alcohol, it's the most commonly misused drug among youth. So we want to talk about those myths, right? Give them the correct information and what you can do to reduce the odds of them experiencing those consequences of using them together. We know about 1 in 3 youth who drank alcohol have also combined alcohol with marijuana in the same evenings. So obviously can get really dangerous for those situations. So have the conversation, be informed, and go home and make a plan. That's what I suggest. And when I talk to the kids as well, we don't want to wait until they're in trouble. Then it's going to be a heated discussion and we may not be productive right out of that. But to talk to them and bring them this scenario, what would they do? Do they feel comfortable calling you? If it's not you, maybe it's another adult in the family. but letting them know, as we all know as parents, we would much rather get that call, late at night that they've done something wrong, but at least we're going to get them home safe. So I urge you guys to have that conversation at home. And so we do want to include a mission moment. This is why we do the work that we do, so important. So we appreciate having Lily here to share her story, one of our dedicated volunteers and the founder of Street Racing Killed. So I'll pass it over to you, Lily.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for inviting me to this very, very special afternoon with you guys today. And thank you, Parent University, for having us. And to all of those parents out there and everybody that is listening to this today, I just want to tell you that I commend you just for being here and for listening to what we have to say, for hearing everything that we're talking about. And I am here today to share my story, actually to share our story, which is Val and I. Valentina, my daughter of 16 years old, who passed away in a street racing crash while a young boy was giving her a ride home. But there were other things behind it. There were many, many things that happened this back in December 7, 2013. A day that I will never forget, and a situation that would always haunt me for the rest of my life. A situation that I don't wish on any parent ever to happen. And this is why I'm here speaking to everyone today. Valentina was just a 16-year-old, going to school. She went to Torrance High. She was loving school. She was loving her friends. To all of you that have teenagers and even 19-year-olds, 20-year-old. I have a 30-year-old. He's my baby still. And to all of you that have kids like that. And then I used to call them my little monsters, even though they didn't like me calling them that, but they are little monsters, I think. And they're so sweet, and they can be so just one moment, I think they can be happy. The next moment they're sad. The next moment they're like whatever. The next moment they're laughing. To me, for Valentina, that was such a beautiful, beautiful stage. And that's what I knew I needed to be more by her side. There was all these changes happening. She could be, on Facebook, doing her homework at the same time, watching Law and Order over here, coloring Little Mermaid. She was such a woman already. At the same time, she was a little girl. At the same time, she was a teenager, and she's struggling through all these emotions that she was going through and just being herself. Every adolescent, I think, it's unique in their own selves. They all have their own little things that they do, how they are. And I was enjoying everything. I was enjoying everything about her. Even when she would, wear my clothes, and when she would tell me what to wear and what not to wear. And, she was just had all this very, very strong personality. And I would have sometimes her girlfriends come over, and it was a lot of fun. They would literally sometimes spend summers with me, the whole summer, while the other single parents like me were all working. I would come home and my room was a mess. They call it the woman cave. And I would find literally nacho Cheetos on my sheets. I couldn't find my clothes, and everybody was wearing everything. So yeah, it was a point that I had 3 teenagers girls living with me and pick me up, take me here, take us to the beach, pick us up at the beach. And then they all wanted to eat, and I was lucky when one would order just one burrito, and then another one would like a salad because she was on a diet. Another one would like the whole plate, So it was actually really cute that, being a single mom and raising my cute little firecracker. Never in my life that I ever thought that I would be what they call now an angel mom. Never even heard about it. I never knew that an angel mom, and maybe any of you that know what an angel mom is, and a mother that has lost a child and has an angel in heaven. I never heard about that, and I never wanted to belong to that club that I am now. I never thought that my daughter could be ripped out of this world with all her dreams. This forget about me, it was her. She did not deserve it. And I was just concentrating and working making sure my rent was paid, making sure they both had something to eat, and making sure they went to school, and waiting for holidays, to do stuff with them. I never thought my life would change the way it has changed until now. But I'm so happy that I'm here with you guys today, because this is the only way I can have her with me. This is what moves me now. The way of her death not being in vain, and having her save lives, making sure it doesn't happen to anyone. That's our mission. You see, there was one day when she asked me to spend it at her girlfriend's house, and I was like, sure, why not? She did it a lot. Either they would spend it at my house or she would go to their house. And I'm like, okay. For some reason that night I was a little hesitant about letting her go, and I didn't know why. However, I took her, and she was like, well, can you drop me if we were at this girlfriend's house? I didn't know that this girlfriend had called both of them and told them, can you guys come here? I know you guys are going to spend the night. I want to go to this party. And I don't want to go alone. Like, my cousin wants me to go. And I think my brother's cheating on me. So I just want to go out tonight. So I dropped her off, and she looked so adorable, just waiting her. She had a unicorn backpack, and it was so tiny, and then she could put everything in there, everything that you guys can imagine. Stuffed that thing up like crazy, and I had no idea what was in it. I dropped her off, and when I saw her standing there by the door, she just looked so cute and adorable, and I got teary-eyed, and I didn't know why. It was this overwhelming feeling all over me. And little did I know that was the last time I was ever going to see her alive. I went home, and I thought I was just being emotional. And I waited for her phone, because she would always call me. Always call me, text me. Because she knew that if she didn't text me or call me, I had everybody's phone number, and I would call all her friends. And she did not want me to embarrass her that way. She would get so mad. So she will call me or text me, because she knew my little threat. Every time I would see a friend of hers, can I have your number? And I would get their number. I had everybody. And everybody's on the Ezra, Valdez. And that's how I had all the list. So she knew she had to do that. But I kind of like got drunk, fell asleep. And all of a sudden I get this phone call, and it's like, hurry up, Valentina. Valentina was in a crash. Hurry up, get here. I'm half asleep. I don't know what the heck is going on. I wake up my son. He was 22 at the time. And we all ran to the corner of Avalon and Anaheim in Wilmington. And there was nothing there but yellow tape. And they told us, well, the kids were taken to different hospitals. We ran to the hospital. We got there. I asked for Val. Where is she? I thought she was in another room. And they just told me, Valentina died. Her best friend told me. And I collapsed to the floor. I didn't faint. I just collapsed from the shock, and I wanted to accept it. We went to the house because there was the police wanted to talk to us, and they gave me the notification that my daughter had passed away. That's the car that she was in. And I had no idea what happened. I had no idea I just knew it was a crash. I didn't know anything about it. And it took me a long time to finally, go back to work. And then one day I read the report, and I was able to look at it and see what happened. So when they got to that party that randomly were invited to, they went with her other friend. It was called a kickback party. And at that party, there was alcohol, drugs, and these teenagers walk in, and the first thing they do is give them a drink. And they all drank. Her best friend, the one that really wanted to go, was diabetic, and she got really sick, and she started throwing up everywhere. So they were helping her throw up in the bathroom. They were, Valentina was with her. So was Massey, her other girlfriend. And they were like, let's just go home. The boy that took them there, he was a week shy of 18. And he's like, I'll take you guys home. So he had also been drinking. So everybody gets in the car. Val walked to the car, got in the back seat. In front of her was the girl that was really, really drunk. And then on the other side, behind the driver, was her best friend as well. They all fell asleep in the car. As he's taking them home, he sees an ex-coworker driving by. They looked at each other and start playing around with the cars, until they come to a complete stop in the middle of the street. He puts his window down, and when he put his window down, he actually woke up Val's friend that was right behind him, and they looked at each other and they're like, let's do this. And they challenged each other to a street race. And they took the challenge. They were going over 100. And Valentina's best friend, she realized how fast they were going, so she put her seatbelt on. She didn't have it, they're both not strapped. She looks at Val and she tries to wake her up, and she wakes her up and she's like, what's going on? And she's like, put your seatbelt on, put your seatbelt on. And she's like, why? Like she does, she's not getting it. She's half asleep, half awake, but it was too late. He crashed against an SUV as he passed a red light and then against the fence. And when Valentina's best friend woke up, Valentina was hanging from the window. As you can see, it's a two-door, but the front seat in front of Valentina went all the way to the front. Her girlfriend is literally, her body was half underneath and the other half was on the dashboard, and her head was 1 inch away from the glass. Very, very, very lucky to be alive, as her liver was lacerated in two, but the bag was holding her liver, and that's why she's still alive now. So everyone survived but my Valentina. And I asked myself, many questions. Why? Why her? But I wanted to make sure I would share this, which is my daughter's funeral, because I want everybody to know that I'm not the only one. I never paid attention to crashes as much as I do now. Never, ever, ever, ever. Maybe I had a fender bender here or there, but I never knew how much there is, how many people and how many parents lose their children and their teens, and how many teens die every year from something 100% preventable. Yes, we show this at schools. We show this to teens. We show this to everyone because we want everybody to know that this is so real, as real as it can get. This is me at the worst moment of my life. I don't even know who took that picture. I don't even know who dressed me. As you can see, my son is hugging me. I'm not hugging him because it was the first time in my life that I wasn't there for him, but he was there for me. He had to take care of calling everyone, calling family, making funeral decisions that he shouldn't have at 22. And I'm like, was I a bad mom? Was she a bad teenager? Was she bad because she went to that party? And I said to myself, like, could the drinking have impaired his decision that he made in that moment? Could he have just thought about it more? Hadn't he not taken that challenge of a street race? I know my daughter would be alive right now, and I wouldn't be here talking to you guys. I know she'll be walking this earth with me. So a street race killed her. And that's why I named my organization Street Racing Kills. Within weeks, I was speaking at schools. All of a sudden, I found this little box, under my bed, and there was Mad Mothers Against Drunk Driver inviting me to talk to them, and I gave them a call and started going to all these schools, and everything started growing from there. And my mission is to spare a parent from losing a child. One thing I have to say about, to parents, it's that I regret right now every second that I didn't spend with her. Every second. We are so busy in making sure they do their homework, making sure they go to school, making sure they have something to eat, making sure they're applying for those college applications, making sure, we have to bring that food and pay that bill. And, there's so much more than that I can tell you now. If they ask, hey, Mom, I want to go to Palm Springs. I want to go to the zoo. And you're like, yeah, we'll see later, maybe next holiday, Let me go see if I can have some money to take you. Let me see if I can get tickets cheaper. For us, it's another thing that we have to do. And yes, we want to do it with them, right? But we're thinking ahead. No, for them as teenagers, it means the world to them, right? For them, it's like, oh my God, I want to go to see penguins at the zoo. Oh my God, I want to go see this. Oh my God, I want to, get a squirrel. I want to see this. I mean, these things that for us are like, they're cute and they're fun. But for them, it means the world. They're in a different world that we are, right? So it is so important that we pay attention to those things, right? It is important. Everything else, I know, they're paying the rent, they're going to school, they're applying for a good college, and so many things, right? And we don't want them to do drugs. We don't want them to get in trouble. We want them to be safe. We want to maybe sometimes put them in a little bubble, but they are allowed to be themselves, right? They're allowed to develop into these, one day mature adults, right? And I think that when that child looks at you in the eye and tells you, Mom, I want to talk to you, we can do that. When that child tells us, Mom, I do not want to talk to you, I can't stand you, you're the worst parent in the world, we wait right there for them until they want to talk to us. That's why we are the adults. I wish right now that my daughter could slam the door in my face and tell me, I hate you, Mom. But I don't have that. But I want everybody else to have that. I want us all to appreciate our children. And not that we don't appreciate them. I don't think I was a bad mom. I loved her with all my heart. But there's so many things that I want to share to everyone to make sure we do those things with them and we don't take them for granted or because we're so busy. There's no bad parents. They're just parents that have to hear stories like us so we could build a better future for our children and mentor our future drivers. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. We always appreciate you sharing the memory of Valentina with us and giving your time to help other parents. And, we never want to have more angel moms, right? There's no word for when a parent loses a child because it's not supposed to happen. So out of everything, what you said about spending time, that's the most important, right? We can never get back that time, and sharing that time together is how you can really have these conversations that are so crucial to helping them make the right choices. So just want to wrap up with sharing a video about street racing kills.
Thank you.
So we are absolutely in this fight together. MADD is focusing on drunk driving, and of course, street racing is a significant issue. In 2020, 45% of fatalities were either due to impaired driving, speeding, or not wearing the seatbelt. So have all of those conversations with your kiddos, especially when you're in the car and if they're about to drive. So we invite you to take the parent pledge with MADD. Of course, to engage your kids with frequent and meaningful conversations, to never allow underage alcohol or drug use in your home, set those rules and consequences when it comes to alcohol and other drugs, host safe gatherings, and of course, never provide that to minors, and to keep them out of reach and secured, especially from those little kiddos. And then I also want to share some parent-to-parent advice. I feel like we can never have enough. What we all know together, we can really make a difference in our community. So this is some parents that we work with, again, with Dr. Allie Powell-Hicks. Advice you have for other parents out there?
Listen to your kids. That is key, communication. And try not to lose your cool, because it's so easy to do so.
Right. Easier said than done. Well,
yes.
Thank you so much. Erica, what about you?
I would just say be open and honest with your kids. I would definitely say give them some expectations, some boundaries, know their friends, and try to, I would say, like, keep them busy to keep their mind off those kind of behaviors and whatnot. So, and then I always say, don't lecture. Like, you don't want to talk at them. You want to make it be like a open conversation. So that way they can feel like, okay, well, I might have messed up. I feel comfortable with going to talk to my mom or my dad or my grandma, whoever their guardian is. So, keep that communication open and just be supportive, if anything. Because like Dr. Ali mentioned, we all are going through some things. It's been a very stressful time. So just be supportive. Like, everybody needs the support right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Lance, what about you?
Well, I feel that as a parent, I need to lead by example. And I honestly choose not to drink any alcohol. And it's not just in front of my kids. It's just when I go out with my friends, when I go out with my wife. My wife will occasionally drink, a glass of wine and whatnot, but she won't drink it around the kids. And I think that if the kids see mom and dad drinking, they're going to think, well, hey, it's okay. And, and it may be okay for some people, and I'm not judging anybody that drinks in front of, drinks alcohol in general. I would just say there's a time and place. And I would definitely not recommend drinking in front of your children, seeing them, allowing them to see you intoxicated. When somebody is under the influence of alcohol, they normally don't make the best decisions. So I just feel like if a parent leads by example, then that child will grow up to be like their parent that led them. So that would be my suggestion. And what Erica had mentioned, a two-way communication, I think, is huge. I don't think a lot of parents are used to talking to them at their level, and they're normally talked down to them, and a lot of kids don't take well to that. I feel like with my kids, my girls, they know that I'm their dad, and they know that at the end of the day they need to conform because they're under my roof, under my household. But I don't talk down to them. I talk to them one-on-one, and I allow them to talk back to me, but not in a negative way, but just communicate with me, I'll say. And I'll hear them out. But at the end of the day, they know that, dad has the last say, and whatever dad says, they have to follow. And if they don't follow that, then there are consequences. I can take away things that are invaluable to them, like their cell phone, like their car, like their ability to go out. So that would be my advice, is just lead by example. And if they don't listen, then there are consequences.
Great. Thank you so much. Dr. Ali, any final words for us?
I would say I love everyone's conversations about communication and the importance about talking to your kids where they are, not talking down to them, talking directly to them, having those open and honest moments with them. I think that is hugely important. And like I've said a few different times, it really helps them to formulate those problem-solving skills, to begin to process, how do we deal with the challenges of life. And then another thing that I didn't mention earlier, but maybe could have, is that it's really important to teach our kids to oppose people. And sometimes we kind of get in this position of when you see someone bullying somebody in the real world, you don't do what you're told. You don't do what's in alignment in that moment. And so I think teaching our kids, when do you confront people, like, you know, your peers? How do you confront them? How does it work? Because sometimes it's scary because we have, you know, strata. I mean, think back to when you were a kid. You have like the really cool kids and they're doing their thing. And it's kind of scary to step up to those kids and be like, stop doing what you're doing. This is the worst. But when we teach our kids, you know, like what everyone's been saying here, right? When you teach them to talk, then you teach them to think, they go out into the world and they see something they don't like, and they're able to speak up to it. Because when your kid gets, you know, when someone presents them with alcohol, like what Lance was saying, you know, when someone's, you know, presenting them with something, I don't remember when you said it, but they'll be able to be like, no, that's not for me. That's not for me. And how do you teach them how to say that as well? I think that's also important, is to help your kids figure out and maybe even problem solve. And sometimes in the therapeutic world, we call it like the empty chair scenario, where you'll have like an empty chair with a person in it that you're wanting to talk to but can't. And so you can set up a scenario in your house and be like, so if someone asks you to, you know, smoke this vape, to drink some alcohol, and you actually kind of don't want to, how do you go about telling them and communicating to them? How do you feel bold enough to tell someone, no, not interested, not for me? Because sometimes we just kind of go with the flow because it's easier to do that. And so I think that teaching our kids how to oppose people can be really helpful. And then I think also there's so much benefit in just remembering when we were kids. Some, you know, it was longer for some of us than others, but I dyed my grave. I feel very youthful, but
I support my grave.
I like it.
I'm embracing mine too. The silver lining, I'm embracing it.
I had to give it to mine the other day. I was like, girl. But you know, remember, like, we were all there. We thought we were doing the right thing. We thought what we were doing was a really good idea, and it just wasn't. And the way I broke it down to one of my friend's kids the other day, because he's a little scientist and super smart, and I was like, well, if you're doing an experiment, isn't it great when an experiment lasts longer and you can capture more data, right? Having a 2-year-long experiment is wonderful, but having a 40-year-long experiment, doing a longitudinal study, is even better. So youth is great because you have this ability to see things in a different way because you haven't been programmed by the world yet. The world hasn't beat you down and taught you that things are hopeless and that nothing's going to change. And so you really think you can fix things. You think you can change things. You have this beautiful optimism. And that's one thing that's beautiful about youth. And that's why you try so many things. Some of them don't work, but you try because you're new. But we've been around for a little bit longer. We have a different level of data. We've collected more data. We've collected more diverse data as well because we've lived a life. We've known more people. We've had more days of experience. So let's put our data together. My longitudinal, 40, 50 years of data, and you're 14. You bring some creativity, I'll bring some experience, and let's come to the middle. Let's figure out what we do with all this information and data to be the best scientists we can be.
All right. I love rewatching that video. I always find some new information. So just to wrap up, right? Guys, take a look at the handbook. Those links are available in your information. It's definitely worth it and it works. And of course, if you haven't started that conversation already, take this moment after you've watched this video, maybe even bring them in on it, and have that conversation tonight. And talk early. If you got those young ones at home, they're not teens yet, it's definitely a conversation there to be had. And just know that you guys can make a difference. And a brief thank you to the California Office of Traffic Safety, who provides the funding for us to do this education, and it makes it completely free to your community. And so that's all we have today. Thank you again for having us, Parent University. Thank you, Lily, for joining us as well. If you want to reach out, there is my phone and my email, and you can always visit our website for additional information.
I'm going to jump in here and say thank you so much to you both for being here. As a mom of 2 teenagers at home, there was not one part of your presentation that didn't hit home in many, many ways. So I really want to thank you for sharing the information from the statistics, those scary statistics of how everything has gone up and not down. You would think with Uber and you would think with kids knowing better and doing better, that those statistics would be going down. So, from those statistics to the street racing, Ms. Trujillo, thank you so much for sharing your story. That just really, hit me as, again, the mom of 2 daughters at home, just, that mother's intuition you had when you saw her dressed up, ready to go, that just really hit too. So parents, I want to thank you for watching. I know there's a lot of good information in here tonight. Certainly it's a video that we could watch and rewatch with our kids, showing them some of those statistics, having those conversations, having those tough conversations, and creating those ground rules. I loved the family rules that you shared also. So there is just a whole lot that you packed in here tonight, a lot for us all to digest. So I really want to thank you both for being here. I want to thank you both for sharing your story. And Long Beach Unified parents, thank you for tuning in. We'll be here next Tuesday and the Tuesday after. This link is live, so if you want to share it out or you want to watch it again, feel free to continue using this link or check it out on our Parent University webpage. I'm going to sign us off and say thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, for being with us tonight. And we will
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you next time.